So James Gunn has finally unveiled some of the upcoming projects for his future DC universe. While it might still not be clear what exactly is going on with this new universe, I wanted to take the time to share my thoughts on some of the projects discussed and the future of DC entertainment as a whole. So first things first, in the future, all projects not connected to the greater DC cinematic universe will be labeled as Elseworlds. This is something the comics have used for years when something is not part of the mainline story, such as Gotham by Gaslight or The Dark Knight Returns. Specific examples Gunn lists here are Todd Phillips' Joker and Matt Reeves' Batman. While I am curious about Joker 2 for Lady Gaga's Harley Quinn and the fact that it's a musical, I don't really have much to say about it. I didn't love the first movie, nor do I think it needs a sequel, but hey, obviously I'm going to see it anyway, so what's it matter? On the other hand, I cannot wait for the Batman Part 2. Matt Reeves really hit it out of the park with that first movie, so I've got no reason not to trust him with the sequel. I don't even care what villain, we've all said Mr. Freeze or Hugo Strange, but honestly, whatever that man cooks up, I'm going to watch, and I'm probably going to enjoy it. I assume the Penguin and Arkham shows spawning from that universe will also fall under this banner. Also, during a Q&A on the DC website, Gunn neither denied or confirmed that the current animated universe, the Tomorrowverse as it's been dubbed by fans, would be continuing. I actually like this universe so far, even though it's only a few movies in. While I would be a little sad to see it go, I would understand them retiring it since I've said DC animation will be connected to the live-action movies in the future. I actually plan to make a video about the Tomorrowverse, while I'll get more in depth about what I like about those movies, so subscribe to be ready for when that one comes out. Finally, the last Elseworlds project I would like to mention is the CW's Arrowverse. Started back in 2012 with Arrow, the universe has since expanded to include the likes of Batwoman and Superman. While most of the shows have since ended or been cancelled, there are still two that remain. The Flash, starring Grant Gustin, is set to end this year with its final season beginning soon. Say what you will about the later seasons, but those first 3 seasons were some of the best stuff to come out of this universe. Additionally, there's Superman and Lois, which is set to begin its 3rd season next month. This is objectively the best show on the network with strong writers, good VFX, and a good understanding of the source material. It's a very wholesome Superman show that is a welcome addition after his absence in the movies the last few years. While many feared it was on its way out like the other shows, Gunn has confirmed that the show still has another season or 2 left in it. Basically, I'm taking this as James Gunn telling us that we can continue to have our silly CW Superman show with Tyler Hoechlin until James is ready to introduce his new version in 2025. But before we can get to that, we first have to talk about the movies coming out later this year that are left over from the old guard. Shazam! Fury of the Gods releases in just over a month, and honestly, I was excited for this movie until the most recent trailer showed the entire movie in 3 minutes. That being said, I really like the first movie, and I'm a fan of Shazam's from projects like Young Justice, so currently I've got no reason to doubt David F. Sandberg delivering another wholesome superhero story about Despite the craziness that is Ezra Miller's criminal rampage across America, I'm actually really excited for Andy Muschietti's The Flash. Seemingly set as a goodbye to the current DCEU/Snyderverse, this really has the opportunity to play around with the Flashpoint storyline and characters. Accompanied by the return of Michael Keaton as Batman and Sasha Calle's debut as Supergirl, what's not to be curious about? We get the first trailer this Sunday during the Super Bowl, so fingers crossed for a good one. Being someone who grew up on Batman the Brave and the Bold and Young Justice, it's hard not to be excited for Blue Beetle. There's so much potential for a young hero like Jaime in today's superhero atmosphere. He's arguably the heart of the 2 shows I just mentioned. The fact that WB had enough faith in this to switch it from an HBO Max release to a theatrical release should already speak volumes. Finally, there's Aquaman and the Lost Kingdom. Honestly, I could take or leave this movie. Very similar response to this as I did with Joker 2. I'm gonna go see it as the Hollywood shill that I am, but I'm not exactly counting the days until it's released. I thought the first movie was fun, but honestly at this point the universe is in such shambles that I don't really care. Like, they might deliver a great movie, but that first one also wasn't super amazing. For me, I think what I'm most interested in from this movie is whether Jason Momoa sticks around as Aquaman or dons the white face paint and the motorcycle as Lobo in the new DCU. With all those remaining projects out of the way, we can pave the way for Chapter 1 of Gunn's new universe, titled Gods and Monsters. Now, did I love the way all this was announced? No, I think it was a bit rushed and unclear as to what is really happening. When asked how past DCU projects like the Suicide Squad might be incorporated, Gunn said some things are like a rough memory of what happens in the DCU. But once we hit Superman Legacy, anything can be changed. In fact, in that same interview when asked if people would be confused by the new universe, Gunn and Safran said that things would be a bit confusing for now, and that they hope by the time their Superman movie comes out, it will be clear what projects belong where. So since they're still being a bit wishy-washy on the approach to this universe, we're not going to worry about that right now. Instead, we're going to take a look at each project on its own in the order they were announced. First up is Creature Commandos, a team of essentially universal monsters from the Dark Universe that assembled to fight Nazis in the 1940s. This is an animated series written by Gunn for HBO Max. I think this is honestly a pretty odd choice, as you're starting off, this was the first announcement, and it's this odd monster team that fights Nazis. But that might just be me. I feel like jumping into this incredibly obscure team at the start of this new universe is a bit off, but I'm open to seeing what they have to offer. It's not like Gunn hasn't proven himself again and again that he can turn these obscure teams into beloved household names. The next project Gunn announced was Waller, an HBO Max series following Viola Davis's character from the current DCEU. I have to be honest, this is probably my least anticipated project out of those announced, only because I don't see why it has to be its own project. Since the announcements of this show, they've said that Peacemaker Season 2 is delayed, though characters from Peacemaker will be making an appearance in the series. So for me, I'm just kind of sitting here asking myself, why is this just not the storyline of Peacemaker Season 2? On top of it, Waller's most interesting in the way that she interacts with other heroes and villains, such as the way she might blackmail the Justice League or threaten Black Adam. But we'll just have to see how it goes. And on top of that, they've also said that a character from Creature Commandos will appear, so I'm assuming they're going to link those two shows, and Waller's going to be the one who founds the Creature Commandos. Next up is Superman Legacy. This is probably the project I'm most excited for, simply because, God, please let it be a hopeful and fun Superman. I am so sick of sad and dreary Superman. And it's not like we can't have an odd take, a Homelander or a Snyderverse Superman. But that shouldn't be the only thing we get for how many years now. So I really hope this is an opportunity to have that comic book Superman who stands for truth, justice, and a better tomorrow. The next project Gunn announced was an HBO Max series titled Lanterns. Obviously following Green Lantern's Jon Stewart and Hal Jordan in a buddy cop scenario. Honestly, I was really excited for this at first because Jon Stewart is the best Green Lantern, and you can't convince me otherwise. I grew up on the Justice League animated series, where he was the GOAT. However, I am a little hesitant because they've said that this series is set on Earth. Now, don't get me wrong, there might be some big mystery happen on Earth, as Gunn has said that this show is connected to the greater story of the DCU. However, the Green Lanterns are space cops at the end of the day, and there's so many possibilities, so many planets they could go to, or crazy creatures and designs you could do. And instead, they're just going to be interacting with, I assume, a bunch of humans and trying to solve some kind of mystery. The next project announces The Authority. I don't know how I'm supposed to feel about this show. We've had so many what-if superheroes were bad stories at this point that how is this supposed to feel unique? We're currently sitting here where we haven't even had a real Superman or Batman in how long? We've had shows like The Boys, Invincible, and the Snyderverse all tackling this parody of superheroes for so long that I just question how this is going to feel unique. That being said, I never want to, we never want something to be bad. And so obviously, I hope for the best, and I hope they can really pull something off here. Paradise Lost, as James describes it, is Game of Thrones but on Themyscira. It's a prequel set before Wonder Woman's born and follows the politics of Paradise Island. I think it's actually pretty interesting to focus on Paradise Island before Wonder Woman, as it does tend to get glossed over a lot, and we just focus on Diana, the great hero, but there are so many great characters that they could focus on here. I also think the show could be the darker Greek mythology show that the adults who grew up on Percy Jackson might be looking for. The Brave and the Bold is one of the projects I'm most curious about. Obviously, as someone who grew up on Batman, I want to be excited, but I'm also hesitant. I love Pattinson so much, but I do want a less grounded, more campy Batman. Someone who can just dress in blue and gray tights and go out to fight ninjas. I'm interested in seeing Damian, as he hasn't been adapted to live action yet, but I'm hesitant because Gunn says this is the start of the Bat family. Damian doesn't work as a start because he has to learn to be like Bruce and the other heroes. He comes in ready to just body everybody. So I'm hoping and assuming that there is an older, more established Bat family, and this is just our start with them, our introduction to them. Booster Gold is another series being developed for HBO Max. This follows a loser from the future who comes back using future tech to seem like a hero to our day and age. I think it's an interesting idea. I don't really know a ton about the character outside of Batman the Brave and the Bold. And I also think it's an odd choice to start this new universe with. It's a little odd. It's as if the MCU would have started with She-Hulk Attorney at Law as its, fifth project instead of waiting, years for the main characters to be established. But who knows? In this new storyline, Booster Gold might be a key part. We might be dealing with some future shit. The second to last project announced is Supergirl Woman of Tomorrow. I haven't read the comic, but I will as soon as the stuff is back in stock. Of course, everybody bought it up the minute these things were announced. I am curious who this Supergirl will be, as Gunn has said he's open to Sasha Calle returning from The Flash. However, I assume it'll be a new actress in this new universe. From what I do know about the storyline, I feel like what they're trying to do is make Supergirl darker than Clark. She is that more rugged, more experienced. She's older. She was a Kryptonian for the first bit of her life. She has been and often is more powerful than him in some instances. So I guess for me, what I'm looking for from this adaptation of Supergirl is that it should feel more serious, unlike the Supergirl adaptations we had so far. Not to hate on the show, I think it exists as the camp that it is. But I think this new Supergirl should be more serious with a slight bit of Superman cheese. The last project announced was Swamp Thing, which... I'm sorry, I'm just curious if this is actually going to work, as they've tried to adapt Swamp Thing how many times? At least 2 or 3 times, and it never works. Obviously, what we all want is them to go full horror, and I'm not talking how, the MCU claims Multiverse of Madness is a horror movie. No, I'm talking full on, give me some Conjuring, some Insidious, some creepy shit, some body horror, The Thing. Both Guillermo del Toro and James Mangold have shown interest in this project. I think they would both be awesome choices. Guillermo would find a way to make Swamp Thing into a full practical puppet. Some suit that he would stick some poor actor in. But James has also shown that he can make that darker, more rugged storyline with things like Logan. And so yeah, that's what was announced so far. And honestly, I'm just going to take it easy and not think about it that hard. This isn't even all the projects in this first chapter. Gunn has said there's more to be unveiled in the future, and when it comes to the release of these, we're going to get about 2 movies and 2 shows each year, so plenty of content. Honestly, my biggest thing for this slate is I'm just asking you, Mr. Gunn, Mr. Safran, please just let DC be fun again. Thank you so much for listening to my thoughts on the future of the DC Cinematic Universe. Let me know what you think of the current slate in the comments down below. If you liked what you saw here and want to see more, don't forget to like, share, subscribe, and hit the bell to know when the next one's coming. Thank you, and I'll see you in the next one.